Harper Wynn stood in the dim hallway of their Brooklyn apartment, holding her breath as she watched her husband, Cole, tiptoe toward their son's crib. He placed a soft brown teddy bear beside the sleeping toddler, brushing its ear like a man desperate to look loving without doing the work of love. Harper knew that gesture too well, small enough to fake effort, dramatic enough to soothe his guilt. And tonight, guilt was practically dripping off him. Cole glanced at the time on his iPhone and cleared his throat. "I might be late. Big meeting tomorrow. Need to prepare." Harper didn't respond. She didn't need to. The scent of unfamiliar perfume clinging to his jacket already finished the conversation. She whispered, "Be safe," though every bone in her body knew he wouldn't be with spreadsheets or clients. He'd be with Blair Camden, the woman he thought Harper didn't know existed. When the door clicked shut, the apartment fell into a silence so heavy it felt alive. Harper leaned against the crib, watching her son's tiny chest rise and fall. His innocence made her throat tighten. She brushed her fingers across the teddy bear Cole had left behind. A gift meant to distract from the truth. A truth Harper had been swallowing for months. She walked softly into the kitchen, where her untouched dinner sat beside her MacBook Air. She opened it, staring at the email draft she had written a dozen times. "I'm leaving." But she always backspaced, terrified of the unknown, terrified of raising her son alone, terrified of losing everything, even though staying meant slowly losing herself. Tonight felt different. Something inside her pulsed like a warning. A whisper that if she didn't move now, she might never move at all. She checked the baby monitor, exhaled shakily, and whispered as if confessing a crime, "I can't do this anymore." Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. A subway rumbled underground. Brooklyn breathed with its usual noise. But inside this tiny apartment, a decision, one that would change everything, was taking shape. Cole thought he was leaving a teddy bear. He had no idea Harper was about to leave a silence far louder. Cole Wynn stepped out of the Uber in Midtown, adjusting his collar as if the night itself required him to look more alive than he ever did at home. Neon lights reflected across the glass walls of the high-rise gym where Blair Camden waited his secret, his thrill, his escape from the responsibilities he never wanted to admit he carried. The moment he walked inside, the scent of eucalyptus and expensive protein shakes filled the air, replacing the soft smell of baby lotion that lingered in his apartment. Blair stood near the windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline, dressed in a fitted black athleisure set that made her look like she belonged on an influencer billboard. She didn't bother hiding the smirk curling on her lips when she saw him. "You're late," she teased, crossing her arms. Cole shrugged, pulling her into a kiss that held far more urgency than affection. Harper needed help putting the kid down. "You know how it is." Blair laughed, a sound sharp enough to cut. "I don't know how it is. I'm not the one married with a toddler." She picked up her water bottle and leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "But I know you wish you weren't." Cole didn't deny it. That was the dangerous part. She led him upstairs to the rooftop lounge, reserved for premium gym members, a space lined with fire pits, soft lighting, and sweeping views of the East River. Cole sank into a cushioned chair, loosening his shoulders for the first time all day. Here, he wasn't a father failing to connect with his son, or a husband who no longer bothered trying. Here, he felt important, wanted, admired. Blair curled against him, scrolling through her phone. "Guess who reached out to me today? Someone from your company." Her tone was playful, but her eyes were assessing. Cole stiffened. "Why would anyone from my company talk to you?" She shrugged, feigning innocence. "Maybe they like my content. Maybe they want me for a brand partnership. Or maybe," she added with a slow grin, "they're curious about the man who keeps sneaking off to see me." Cole's stomach twisted. "You didn't say anything, right?" "Relax," she said, nudging him. "I know how to keep a secret. Unlike your wife, maybe." He laughed uneasily. He didn't know Harper suspected anything. He didn't know she had seen the photos he thought were hidden. He didn't know that silence was never safety, it was preparation. As Blair leaned in to kiss him again, Cole's phone buzzed. He ignored it. Probably Harper asking when he'd be home. Probably something he didn't want to deal with. Far away, in their dim Brooklyn apartment, Harper was awake, staring at her sleeping child, planning her next breath with the precision of someone preparing to escape. Blair rested her head on his shoulder. "You're mine tonight," she murmured. Cole smiled. He had no idea how quickly tonight would become the last peaceful moment he'd ever know. The apartment felt colder after Cole left, as if even the walls understood what Harper Wynn refused to say aloud. She moved through the small living room quietly, careful not to wake her son, Liam, who slept in the next room with the teddy bear pressed against his cheek. The dim glow of a street lamp spilled through the blinds, casting long shadows that swayed across the hardwood floor like quiet warnings. Harper sat at the kitchen table, her fingers trembling slightly as she wrapped them around a lukewarm cup of Starbucks coffee she had barely touched all evening. She stared at the steamless surface, feeling a numbness creep through her chest. The numbness wasn't new, it had been growing for months, settling into her ribs like dust she couldn't wipe away. With a shaky breath, she opened her MacBook Air. The screen lit her exhausted face, highlighting the small details she often ignored. The faint, dark circles under her eyes, the tension in her jaw, the soft sadness permanently etched between her brows. She clicked open her email draft, the same one she had written and deleted a dozen times. "I'm leaving." 2 words she couldn't bring herself to send. She closed the laptop halfway, pressing the lid against her forehead. Tears burned behind her eyes, but nothing fell. Crying required energy, and tonight she had none left. A familiar ping sounded from her phone. She hesitated before pulling it closer. A notification from the credit card shared with Cole appeared on the lock screen. $189. 50 Rooftop Lounge, Midtown, NYC. Her stomach dropped. It was the same place Cole had once described as too expensive for date night. Yet somehow, tonight, it wasn't too expensive for him and Blair. Her breath hitched short, sharp, painful. Another notification popped up. CoYN. Your Apple ID was used to sign in on another device. She froze. Cole had used her login again, and when she navigated to her photo backups, her world tilted. There, hidden in a buried folder, were selfies of Cole and Blair at the gym, at dinners, in an Uber, laughing, touching, living a life she wasn't invited to join. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. She set the phone down as if it were burning her skin. Harper stood abruptly, pacing the small kitchen, gripping her arms to keep from falling apart. "I'm such an idiot," she whispered, her voice cracking. But even as she said it, something inside her resisted. A spark, a flicker, a tiny refusal to break completely. She walked to Liam's room and knelt beside the crib. His tiny hand peeked out from under the blanket, soft and warm. Harper brushed her thumb across his knuckles. "I'm not doing this to you," she whispered. "I won't let you grow up thinking love looks like this." The apartment no longer felt cold. It felt like a cage. And for the first time, Harper understood she wasn't powerless, she was preparing. Liam's soft cry broke through the apartment sometime past midnight, a trembling little sound that sliced straight through Harper Wynn's chest. She pushed herself out of bed, her legs heavy, her mind still fogged with the images she had seen earlier. Cole with Blair, smiling in ways he rarely smiled at home. She couldn't unsee it. She couldn't unfeel the sharpness of betrayal settling deep beneath her ribs. She stepped into the nursery, where the nightlight cast a warm amber glow across the room. Liam was standing in his crib, fists rubbing his sleepy eyes, his tiny body trembling with confusion. Harper lifted him gently, pressing his cheek against her shoulder. His warmth steadied her in a way nothing else could. "It's okay, sweetheart," she murmured, swaying back and forth. "Mommy's right here," he whimpered, gripping her sweater with surprising strength. The teddy bear Cole had left earlier lay on the floor, face down, its stitched smile turned toward the wall as if it too understood the truth Harper had discovered. She settled into the rocking chair, holding Liam close. His small breaths soon evened out, but Harper's didn't. Every inhale wavered, every exhale trembled. She'd spent months pretending not to notice the distance, the excuses, the sudden work emergencies. She had hoped maybe desperately that she was wrong, but she wasn't. She brushed her hand over Liam's hair, her eyes stinging. "You deserve better than this," she whispered. "And so do I." The rocking chair creaked as she shifted, the sound echoing through the quiet apartment. Her phone, left on the dresser, lit up with another notification. Cole had used the credit card again. Another expensive charge. Another lie. Her throat tightened. She looked around the nursery, the soft blue curtains she had sewn herself during pregnancy, the bookshelf Daniel had helped her install, the little mobile spinning slowly above the crib. Everything in this room had been built with love, with hope, with a dream of a family that would stand together. Now, the dream felt like shattered glass beneath her feet. She laid Liam back into the crib, tucking the blanket around him. His lips parted in a tiny sigh, and for a moment, Harper's heart almost broke from the weight of it all. She stepped out of the nursery and closed the door softly behind her. The hallway felt darker tonight, the silence colder, the shadows longer. She leaned against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest. A sob escaped her, quiet, raw, the kind that came from months of swallowing pain she never voiced. She buried her face in her hands. How much more could she take? But between the sobs came something unexpected, a clarity she couldn't ignore. Cole wasn't coming home to her. He hadn't been coming home emotionally for a long time. She wiped her face, standing slowly. Tonight wasn't the moment she broke. It was the moment she finally saw the truth clearly enough to plan her escape. The sun had not yet risen when Harper Wynne woke again, her sleep as fractured as her heart. Liam was still asleep, his tiny fingers curled around the blanket. Harper watched him for a long moment before stepping quietly into the kitchen. Her body felt weightless, but not in a peaceful way, more like a person drifting through the final hours before a storm broke open. Her phone buzzed on the table, vibrating against the wood. She picked it up, expecting maybe a message from Cole saying he was working late, the same excuse he always used. Instead, the lock screen lit up with a notification she hadn't seen before. Gym check-in. Cole Wynne has arrived at Midtown Elite Fitness. Her breath stalled. That was the gym from the charges. That was the gym she knew Blair used. A tremor moved through her fingers as she unlocked the phone. But before she could open anything else, another notification slid across the screen. iCloud photos updated. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Her thumb hovered, then pressed. Her photo gallery opened. At first, she saw only harmless snapshots. Liam crawling, a sunset from their Brooklyn window, an old picture of her wedding bouquet. But then the screen shifted, as new thumbnails loaded. Her stomach twisted. There they were, Cole and Blair. Cole at the gym, sweat-soaked shirt clinging to him, Blair's face nuzzled against his neck. Cole and Blair in matching robes at what looked like a rooftop spa. Cole holding Blair's waist in an elevator mirror. Cole smiling, the carefree smile he stopped giving Harper years ago. She gripped the counter to steady herself as the floor felt like it tilted underneath her. Her chest tightened painfully. She scrolled further, unable to stop herself, unable to protect herself fast enough. The images became more intimate, more careless, more cruel. Every photo was a confession, a timeline, a map of betrayal she had never wanted to read. Her fingers turned cold. Finally, she found a screenshot, a message from Cole to Blair. "Wish I could spend the night." Harper keeps guessing things. She's so paranoid lately. Paranoid. That word sliced her open. She pressed a shaking hand over her mouth, but a broken sound slipped through anyway. The humiliation felt suffocating. She had begged Cole for affection, for communication, for help with their son. And all this time, he had been telling another woman that Harper was paranoid. Everyone. Her legs weakened, and she slid into the nearest chair. Her eyes burned, but no tears came, only a kind of numbness that felt like frost creeping across her heart. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Cole. "Heading home soon. Don't wait up." Harper stared at the message, her pulse throbbing in her ears. She finally understood something she had resisted for too long. Cole wasn't coming back to her emotionally. He hadn't been hers for months, maybe years. The truth was brutal, undeniable, and suddenly clarifying. She locked the phone, stood up, and drew in a shaky breath. This wasn't just betrayal. This was her final warning from the universe. Leave now, or lose yourself forever. Harper Wynne stood in the center of the living room, her phone still clenched in her hand. The photos of Cole and Blair burned into her vision like a brand she couldn't scrape off. Her heart pounded unevenly, almost painfully, but beneath the panic lived something sharper, quieter, more dangerous. Clarity. For the first time in months, maybe years, her mind wasn't foggy. It was painfully clear. She moved toward the bedroom with a strange sense of purpose, as if her body knew exactly what to do, even while her emotions lagged behind. She opened the closet and pulled out a suitcase, the one she had once packed for a family trip. Cole canceled last minute because work needed him. Now, work had a name. And a body? and perfect hair extensions. Harper placed the suitcase on the bed and opened it. The zipper's hiss felt like the beginning of something irreversible. She grabbed only essentials: clothes for her and Liam, diapers, wipes, the emergency cash she'd hidden months ago when she first suspected something was wrong. She added Liam's birth certificate, her passport, and the old Kindle she used to read when nights were quieter, its screen still saved on a highlighted passage from Meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The words steadied her trembling hands. She moved through the apartment fast but silent, like a shadow crossing familiar ground for the last time. When she entered the nursery, she paused. Liam slept peacefully, his fingers loosely curled around the blanket, unaware that his world was changing before dawn. A sob rose in her throat, but she swallowed it and leaned down, brushing her lips across his forehead. "We're leaving, baby," she whispered. "Mommy's not raising you in lies." She lifted him carefully, supporting his warm little body as he settled sleepily against her shoulder. She grabbed his teddy bear, the one Cole left as a prop for guilt, and stuffed it into the diaper bag. When everything was packed, Harper stood near the apartment door, her pulse racing so fast she felt lightheaded. She hesitated for a single second, her hand hovering over the doorknob. This was her home, her son's first home, the place she decorated with hope. But it wasn't safe. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not for her child. She adjusted the bags on her shoulder, took a deep breath, and turned the knob. The hallway was silent at this hour, illuminated by the soft, flickering light of a single bulb. Her footsteps echoed softly as she walked toward the elevator. With each step, a piece of fear fell away. With each step, she claimed a part of herself she thought was long gone. The elevator doors opened, and she stepped inside. By the time Cole's Uber pulled up outside the building at 2:07 a.m., Harper and Liam were already gone into the cold Brooklyn night, toward an uncertain future that somehow felt safer than the life she was leaving behind. Cole Wynn stepped out of the Uber with a loosened tie and the faint scent of Blair's perfume still clinging to his jacket. He was exhausted, annoyed, and eager to crash on the couch before Harper could interrogate him about where he had been. He rehearsed a lie on the elevator ride up, something about a late meeting, a stubborn client, a delayed train. Harper always doubted but rarely challenged him. She was predictable that way. But when he unlocked the apartment door, something felt wrong. The lights were off. The air felt hollow, like the apartment itself was holding its breath. "Harper?" he called out, stepping inside. His voice echoed slightly, a sound he wasn't used to. Normally, the soft hum of Harper's late-night cleaning or the glow of her laptop greeted him. Tonight, nothing. He flipped on the living room lights. The couch was bare. The blanket usually draped across the armrest was gone. The small basket of Liam's toys by the coffee table looked emptier. Cole frowned, irritation prickling his spine. "Harper, seriously? You asleep already?" He walked toward the nursery and pushed the door open. The nightlight cast its usual soft glow across the room, but the crib was empty. Empty. The blanket. The stuffed turtle. The tiny socks that always seemed to disappear in the laundry. All gone. A cold shock shot through Cole's body. He stepped inside, scanning the room like someone trying to understand a foreign language. "Harper?" His voice cracked despite himself. He rushed back into the living room, grabbing his phone. No missed calls. No messages. Just silence, clean, polished, merciless silence. Suddenly his gaze snapped to the corner of the room. The teddy bear he had left beside Liam earlier lay on the floor, alone, tipped onto its side. Cole picked it up, staring at it as if it held answers. It didn't. Harper hadn't left a note. Hadn't left a warning. Hadn't even left a trace. Cole's chest tightened. His mind scrambled for explanations. Maybe she went to her sister's. But Harper didn't have a sister. Maybe she visited a friend. But Harper barely socialized. Maybe she took Liam for a walk. But not at 2 a.m, not with bags packed, because the closet he ran to it now was half empty. Her clothes. Liam's clothes. Gone. He opened the drawer where Harper kept important documents. Empty. A slow dread climbed up his spine. She hadn't left, temporarily. She had left him. Cole sank onto the edge of the bed, gripping the teddy bear so tightly the seams strained. His breaths came short and jagged. "How could she?" he whispered. But somewhere deep inside, A quiet voice, one he had silenced for years, answered back, "Because you gave her no reason to stay." For the first time, Cole felt the weight of what he had done, and the terrifying truth. He didn't know if he would ever see his wife or child again. Cole Wynn had always believed he was in control of his marriage, his excuses, his double life. But as the hours ticked by, and Harper still didn't answer his calls, a tight panic crawled into his chest and refused to leave. He paced their apartment like a trapped animal, replaying every detail of the night, but none of the lies he told himself made sense anymore. At 3:21 a.m., he called Harper again, straight to voicemail. At 3:22 a.m., he called her mother, forgetting, for a moment, that Harper's mother had died when she was 16. At 3:26 a.m., he called the only mutual friend they had, just to hear someone say Harper was fine. No one answered. The silence sharpened into something terrifying. "Where the hell are you?" he muttered, running a hand through his hair. The teddy bear rested on the couch beside him, staring with stitched eyes that made him feel uncomfortably exposed. He threw it across the room. It hit the wall and dropped to the floor, lifeless. His phone buzzed. Not Harper. Blair. Blair. "You coming over tonight? Or still dealing with Mrs.' emotional breakdown?" Cole clenched his jaw. For once, Blair made him feel sick instead of alive. He typed nothing back. Before he could think of what to do next, his phone buzzed again, this time an unfamiliar number. His heart leaped. He answered immediately. "Harper?" No reply. Only faint breathing. Then a soft sound. "Liam." A sleepy little whimper. "Harper, please talk to me. Where are you? Is he okay? Just tell me something." But the call ended. Cole stared at the screen as if it had betrayed him. He called back. The number was already disconnected. Fear hollowed him out. For the first time, the possibility that Harper had left for good hit him with full force. He had assumed she would always be there. Quiet. Loyal. Tired, but present. He never imagined she would disappear without a trace. He grabbed his car keys, then paused. Driving aimlessly would do nothing. He forced himself to sit, to breathe, to think. He needed leverage. Something to pull her back. He opened the shared banking app on his phone. Her account balance was nearly zero, his still full. He smirked, then instantly felt disgusted with himself. Would she come back if money became tight? Would she call him if she got scared? Before he could spiral further, his phone buzzed again. A text. From Harper. A single sentence. "Stop calling. Liam is safe. That's all you need to know. No location. No explanation. No emotion. Just cold distance." Cole's breath caught in his throat. The message wasn't sent out of anger. It was sent out of finality. For the first time, Cole understood he wasn't chasing a wife having a temporary breakdown. He was chasing a woman who had finally opened her eyes. And he was terrified he was already too late. The road to upstate New York felt endless, especially with a sleeping toddler in the back seat and a future that looked nothing like the life Harper Wynn had once imagined. Dawn broke slowly as she drove past stretches of pine trees and frost-covered fields, her headlights cutting through the early morning haze. By the time she reached the small rental cabin Daniel had helped her secure, the sun was barely rising over the Hudson River. The cabin was modest, weathered wood, a stone chimney, and a tiny porch with a single rocking chair. But to Harper, it looked like the first safe place she had seen in years. She carried Liam inside, his head heavy against her shoulder, and laid him gently in the makeshift crib Daniel had assembled the day before. The silence inside the cabin was thicker, deeper, almost startling. No traffic, no footsteps from neighbors, no tension humming in the background like in Brooklyn. Just quiet. A quiet she didn't yet trust. Harper rubbed her arms, suddenly aware of how cold the cabin felt. She turned on the small heater and then walked to the kitchen area, where a handwritten note sat on the counter. "Groceries in the fridge. Call me if you need anything. Rowan." Dr. Rowan Ellison, calm voice, steady eyes, someone who had seen her unravel before she knew she was unraveling. He had helped her process panic attacks during pregnancy, helped her fight postpartum depression, and now, without asking for thanks, he had helped her run. Her throat tightened with gratitude she didn't yet know how to express. She opened the fridge. Milk, fruit, sandwich supplies, even a tiny Starbucks bottled latte, the kind she always bought on hard days. She closed the door slowly, pressing her forehead against the cool surface. Someone had finally thought about what she needed. Hours later, Liam woke with a soft cry, and Harper rushed to him. He blinked up at her, confused for only a moment before reaching for her face with warm, pudgy hands. His innocence grounded her, pulled her back from the edge she'd been dangling from all night. She lifted him, swaying gently. "We're okay," she whispered, though the words trembled. "Mommy's going to make sure we're okay." Because of very tighter, she spent the morning unpacking what little she had brought, folding baby clothes into drawers, arranging diapers on the shelf, placing her MacBook Air near the cabin's small wooden desk. Every motion felt like rearranging her life, piece by fragile piece. When she finally stepped outside, the cold air stung her cheeks, but the view stole her breath. The river shimmered with early sunlight, birds broke the silence with gentle calls, and the world felt strangely untouched. Freedom wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was this quiet, shaky, terrifying. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Another message from Cole. She didn't open it. Instead, she tucked the phone away, lifted Liam into her arms, and let the wind carry the weight she could no longer hold. For the first time, Harper allowed herself to believe she had run toward something, not away. By late afternoon, the cold in upstate New York had settled into Harper Wynn's bones. The cabin heater hummed steadily, but exhaustion pressed heavier than the winter air. Liam napped on a folded blanket near the fireplace, his cheeks rosy from the warmth. Harper finally allowed herself to sit, her hands cupped around a mug of instant coffee, the steam rising in soft curls. A knock shattered the quiet. Her heart lurched. For a split second, fear shot through her. Had Cole found her already? She stood slowly, stepping over toys scattered on the rug. When she opened the door, relief swept through her, so suddenly she almost buckled. It wasn't Cole. It was Rowan Ellison. His brown coat dusted with frost, his hair slightly tousled from the wind, a gentle smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Harper," he said softly. "I didn't want to call and wake Liam. Thought I'd check in." She exhaled shakily. "You scared me." He lifted a cardboard box, the familiar Amazon tape, across the top. "Supplies. And a portable heater. This place gets colder than I remembered." Despite everything, her exhaustion, her fear, her rawness, Harper felt warmth bloom in her chest. "Come in," she said. Inside, Rowan knelt beside Liam, adjusting the blanket around the toddler with the kind of care that made Harper's throat tighten. He wasn't performing kindness, he wasn't overstepping. He simply existed in a way that made the room feel steadier. "You look like you haven't slept," he said quietly as he unpacked the box diapers. Baby food jars, a small stuffed fox, a box of tissues, cough drops, and even a lavender candle Harper used to buy during her better days. "I haven't," she admitted. He paused. "You don't have to explain anything. Not today." Her eyes stung. People always wanted explanations. Her sister-in-law, his coworkers, even Cole. Rowan was the first person who didn't demand context before offering help. Harper sat across from him on the wooden floor. "You did all of this without me asking. No one should have to ask for support when they're drowning," he replied. "And Harper, you've been drowning for a long time." His sincerity cut deeper than any insult Cole ever threw at her. Rowan placed a thermos beside her. "Hot soup, eat before it gets cold." She unscrewed the lid, the scent of chicken and herbs filling the air. Something inside her cracked, not in a painful way, but in a way that reminded her she was still human, still capable of being cared for. "Thank you," she whispered. He held her gaze. "You don't have to rush decisions. You don't have to know what tomorrow looks like. Just breathe today." Harper wrapped her hands around the thermos, grounding herself in its warmth. For the first time since leaving Brooklyn, the shaking in her chest eased. For the first time, she felt she wasn't running alone. Cole had never noticed her breaking. But Rowan, he noticed her healing. The next morning, Harper Wynn woke to the sound of her phone buzzing relentlessly on the nightstand. Liam was still asleep beside her, curled like a comma under the soft blanket Rowan had tucked around him the night before. She reached for the phone, half expecting another unknown number, but the screen was filled with message after message from one person. Cole. At least 15 missed calls, 12 texts, 4 voicemails. Panic, anger, confusion. He cycled through every emotion except accountability. "Cole, where are you? Answer me, Harper. This is insane. Bring Liam home now. We can talk about this like adults." You're overreacting. You always do this. Her stomach twisted. That familiar phrase, "you're overreacting," was a weapon he had sharpened over years. She set the phone aside, refusing to let his words seep under her skin again. The cabin was quiet, the kind of quiet that reminded her she finally had space to breathe. She walked into the small kitchen and poured hot water into a mug. The lavender candle Rowan brought flickered on the counter, filling the room with a calming scent. But the peace didn't last long. The phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail. Something in Harper told her to listen. She put it on speaker while she sipped her coffee. Cole's voice exploded through the cabin. "Harper, what the hell are you doing? You think running makes you look stable? You think a judge will side with you if you take my son and disappear? Come home before you make things worse." She froze. There it was, the shift. Not concern. Not remorse. Control. He wasn't afraid for Liam. He was afraid of losing his image. Her heartbeat quickened, but she inhaled slowly, grounding herself like Rowan had taught her years ago. She replayed the part of his voicemail that mattered most. "You think a judge will side with you?" A threat. A warning. A reminder that Cole would rather destroy her than face himself. Another text popped up. "Cole, if you don't come home, I'm freezing the accounts." Harper's blood ran cold. He would do it. He had done it before, in smaller ways, cutting access, accidentally, hiding receipts, managing money like it was exclusively his. And now she was alone with a toddler in a cabin miles from civilization. For a moment, fear gripped her so tightly she couldn't breathe. Her hands shook as she reached for her MacBook Air. She didn't know what she was searching for. Maybe a solution, maybe a lifeline, until she found Rowan's earlier message. "If anything happens, call me. You're not alone." She stared at the words. Let them steady her. Let them remind her she wasn't powerless. Cole had controlled her for years. But distance had a way of revealing the truth. He didn't know her anymore, and he vastly underestimated the strength of a woman who had finally stopped hoping he would change. She picked up her phone, typed 3 words, and sent them to him without hesitation. "Stop threatening me." For the first time, Harper realized the shift wasn't in Cole. It was in her. Cole Wynn hadn't slept. Not even for a minute. The empty apartment, the cold sheets, the toy basket missing half its contents, everything taunted him with a truth he wasn't ready to face. Harper was gone, and this time, she hadn't run to the bedroom or her sister's non-existent house. She had run from him. And he didn't know how to function without control. By mid-morning, he found himself standing outside Blair Camden's luxury high-rise, dressed in the same wrinkled clothes from the night before. The doorman recognized him and let him through with an unspoken judgment. Cole pretended not to notice. Blair opened her apartment door with a sigh, wearing a cropped sweatshirt and leggings, hair tied in a messy bun meant to look effortless. "You look like a disaster," she commented, stepping aside to let him in. Cole didn't sit. He stalked across the living room, rubbing the back of his neck. "Harper's gone." Blair raised one brow. "Gone like, what, she took the kid to Target?" "Gone," he snapped. "The apartment is empty. She took Liam." She turned off her phone. Blair's expression shifted, annoyance mixed with something colder. She crossed her arms. "And you're here? Why? Looking for sympathy?" "Because, babe, I didn't sign up to co-parent someone else's toddler." Her words cut deeper than he expected. "I thought you cared," he muttered. Blair barked a laugh. "About you? Don't be dramatic. We had fun. But don't confuse fun with a future." Cole felt something crack inside him. "I left my family for you." "No," she corrected sharply. "You neglected your family for me. That's different. And honestly, that's not attractive anymore." He stared at her, stunned. Blair walked to the kitchen island and picked up her phone, scrolling casually. "Besides, your company reached out again this morning. Something about an internal ethics review?" She smirked without looking up. "Maybe you should focus on that." Cole's heart dropped. "What did you tell them?" Her smile grew sharper. "Don't worry. I didn't mention your little affair. I don't need to. They already have screenshots of the gym membership charges you put under a corporate card." He felt the blood drain from his face. "You reported me?" Blair finally looked up, her expression cold and almost pitying. "Sweetheart, I don't report. I just don't delete receipts." Vori 7. The realization hit him like a punch. The woman he risked everything for had just become the woman who could destroy him. "You set me up," he whispered. "No," she corrected again. You set yourself up. I just didn't clean the mess for you." He staggered back, breath shallow. Blair turned her attention to her mirror, adjusting lip gloss. "You should go home, Cole, fix your life, or whatever's left of it." "Well," but calm. But as he reached the door, she called out one more thing, soft, almost sweet. "Oh, and Cole, if Harper's smart, she won't come back." The door clicked shut behind him. For the first time, he felt truly alone. Cole Wynn walked into his office the next morning pretending nothing was wrong. He wore his cleanest suit, shaved twice, and even splashed on the expensive cologne Harper had given him 2 anniversaries ago. He needed to project stability, control. He needed to look like a man who hadn't lost his family overnight. But the moment he stepped onto the 23rd floor of the glass tower in Midtown Manhattan, he sensed something off. People stared, whispered, avoided eye contact. Cole swallowed hard and pushed forward toward his cubicle, forcing a confident stride. But before he reached it, a voice called out sharply, "Cole, HR wants to see you." He turned. His manager, Tom, stood stiffly with a folder in hand, eyes narrowed in a way that told Cole this wasn't optional, this wasn't casual, and it definitely wasn't good. Cole's stomach twisted. "Is this about the Q4 numbers? I can explain." "It's not about numbers." That alone made Cole's blood run cold. Minutes later, he sat in a small conference room across from 2 HR representatives. A Mont Blanc pen lay perfectly aligned on the table between them, a corporate omen he suddenly hated the sight of. One of the reps, a woman named Marcia, folded her hands and sighed. "Cole, we're conducting an internal review regarding misuse of company funds." His throat tightened. "Excuse me?" She slid a printed document toward him. Transactions highlighted in yellow, gym charges, rooftop lounges, hotel day passes, all on a corporate card. Cole felt his face heat. Those were client meetings. Relationship building. "You know how this industry works." Marcia raised a brow. "At a rooftop spa? With a fitness influencer?" She flipped to another page, a screenshot of Blair Camden's public Instagram story, geotagged at the same lounge at the same time as the charge. His heart slammed into his ribs. That woman had posted everything. Everything. "I can explain," he insisted, panic thick in his voice. "We'll allow you to," Marcia said coolly. "In writing. But until the review is complete, your corporate access will be suspended." He blinked. "Suspended? You're suspending me?" Tom exhaled heavily. "Cole," the CFO saw the report. "He's not happy." Cole's stomach dropped. The CFO. He'd hoped this mess would stay at HR level. The CFO meant this was big. Bigger than he could control. "But I'm a top seller," Cole argued, desperation rising. "I've brought in hundreds of thousands this quarter. And we appreciate it," Tom said. "But ethics violations are taken seriously. Very seriously." His badge was taken. His laptop locked. His emails frozen. Cole stumbled out of the conference room, feeling stripped, humiliated, exposed. Every step down the hallway felt heavier than the last. His phone buzzed. A message from Blair. He hesitated before opening it. "Blair. Hope work isn't too stressful today." That mocking little smiley face shattered something inside him. He typed furiously. "Cole, did you give HR those screenshots?" 3 dots appeared. Then, Blair. "Maybe don't leave trails if you can't handle the fire." Cole stared at the message until his vision blurred. Harper was gone. Blair had turned on him. And now his career, his precious sense of power, was collapsing. For the first time, he didn't know if he could recover. The afternoon sun filtered softly through the thin cabin curtains, painting golden strips across the wooden floor. Harper Wynn sat on the edge of the small love seat, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of chamomile tea Rowan had left for her that morning. Liam napped peacefully in the bedroom, his little breaths rising and falling in a rhythm that soothed her frayed nerves. For the first time since leaving Brooklyn, Harper allowed herself to feel the quiet rather than fear it. But healing doesn't start with peace. It starts with breaking. And she could feel the break rising in her chest, sharp and deep. She set the mug down and opened her MacBook Air, hesitating before clicking on the telehealth link Rowan had emailed her overnight. A soft chime sounded. Rowan appeared on the screen, his voice gentle as ever. "Hey Harper, how are you holding up?" She forced a smile. "I'm here." "That's enough for today," he said sincerely. For a moment, she didn't speak, she just breathed. Her shoulders trembled with each inhale. "Everything hurts," she finally whispered. "Not just what Cole did, but the fact that I stayed so long. I thought I was protecting Liam, but maybe I was teaching him the wrong version of love." Rowan leaned forward. "Wanting a family isn't weakness. Hoping someone will change isn't foolish. What is foolish is believing you deserved less than honesty." The words hit her like a wave. Her eyes stung. "You didn't fail, Harper," he continued. "You survived something that was slowly destroying you." Her breath shook. "I feel stupid." "You're not stupid," he said firmly. "You're exhausted, and exhaustion makes everything heavier." A tear fell before she could stop it. Then another. Soon she was crying in quiet, shuddering waves, crying the way she never allowed herself to when Cole was home. She pressed her palm to her mouth, but the sobs broke free anyway. Rowan didn't interrupt. He didn't rush her. He didn't minimize her pain. He simply held space for it. When she finally managed to breathe again, he said softly, "You're doing the hardest part, Harper. You're finally feeling what you've been forced to suppress." She wiped her cheeks. "How do I stop hating myself for not leaving sooner?" "You replace hate with understanding," he answered. "You remind yourself that you left the moment you found your strength. Not late, not early, exactly when you were capable." Harper let the words sink into the deepest, most wounded parts of her. Something loosened inside her ribcage. Rowan continued, "You're not broken, you're rebuilding." A long silence followed, one that felt steady, not empty. "Thank you," she whispered. "Call me anytime," he replied. "You're not alone in this." After the session ended, Harper stepped outside. The cold air kissed her cheeks, and the Hudson River shimmered in the distance. She wrapped her arms around herself, not out of fear this time, but out of something unfamiliar: hope. Healing didn't happen in one moment, but this was where it began. Snow began falling by late evening, soft flakes drifting past the cabin windows like feathers shaken loose from the sky. Harper Wynne wrapped Liam in a warm blanket, humming gently as she laid him in the crib Rowan had set up. The heater hummed steadily, and for once, the small cabin felt like a cocoon rather than a hiding place. She checked her phone, still no new messages from Cole. Good. Distance was safety. She stood near the window, watching the snow thicken into a quiet curtain. A strange mix of gratitude and grief swelled inside her. Gratitude that she had escaped, grief that escaping had ever been necessary. She was about to turn away when headlights cut through the darkness. Her breath stopped. A car, too large to be Rowan's, too sleek to belong in a rural rental lot. Her pulse hammered. "No," she whispered. "Not here. Not this fast." The engine shut off. The driver's door opened. Footsteps crunched through snow. Harper's entire body tensed. A sharp knock shook the cabin door. Liam stirred in the bedroom. Harper's voice trembled as she called out, "Who's there?" "Harper," a familiar voice answered, strained, breathless, furious. "Open the door. We need to talk." "Cole." Her blood ran cold. She backed away from the door as if it were something alive. Cole's voice came again, louder this time. "Harper, I know you're in there. I see the lights on." End quote. She picked up her phone with shaking fingers, dialing Rowan instantly. He answered on the second ring. "Harper?" "He's here," she whispered. "Cole. He found us." A pause, sharp, controlled. "Do not open the door. I'm on my way. 10 minutes. But 10 minutes felt like forever when danger was standing inches away. Cole pounded again, harder. "This is ridiculous. You took my son and disappeared. Do you want the police involved? Because I will." Harper found her voice, thin but steady. "Cole, stop. You have no right to be here." "No, right?" His laugh was humorless. "He's my son. And you, what you did, running off like this? That's unstable, Harper. Judges don't like unstable." Her stomach twisted. There it was. Control, disguised as concern. Manipulation, dressed as legal threats. "Leave," she said firmly. "You don't get to tell me that," he snapped. "Open this door, or—" He stopped. Not because he chose to, but because Liam began crying. A raw, frightened cry. Cole's tone shifted instantly. "See, you're stressing him out. This environment is stressing him out. Harper, I'm begging you, let me in." His voice cracked in a way that once would have broken her. Now, she heard the truth beneath it. He wanted control back. Not family. Not healing. Control. She stepped closer to the door, not to open it, but to speak through it. You lost the right to stand on the other side of this door when you chose someone else's arms over our sons. Silence. Then anger. You're making a mistake, he hissed. A massive one. Harper didn't flinch. No, I'm correcting one. Footsteps suddenly crunched behind Cole. Another voice, calm, steady, ice-cold with warning, spoke from the darkness. Step away from the door, Cole. Rowan had arrived. And this time, Harper wasn't facing her past alone. Cole Wynn spun around, shock flickering across his face as Rowan Ellison stepped into the faint glow of the porch light. Snow clung to Rowan's coat, but his posture was calm, controlled in a way that made Cole's anger look childish. What the hell are you doing here? Cole snapped, fists clenching. Rowan didn't blink. I'm here because Harper and Liam are under my protection right now. You need to leave. Cole scoffed. Your protection? Don't flatter yourself. Harper is my wife. Liam is my son. Inside the cabin, Harper stood frozen, listening through the wooden door. Liam's cries grew louder, more frightened. She hurried to the bedroom and lifted him from the crib, whispering softly, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." But Liam wasn't calming. His tiny body trembled, and his sobs grew sharper, turning into hiccuping gasps. When Harper carried him toward the living room, his face was red, eyes wet, hands reaching upward desperately. "Shh, sweetheart," she murmured, bouncing him gently. "It's just a noise. You're okay." Outside, the argument escalated. Cole stepped closer to Rowan. "You have no business interfering. This is between me and my wife." Rowan's tone stayed level. "Your wife made a choice, and she has every right to distance herself from someone who hurt her." "Hurt her?" Cole spat back. "Everything I did was because I was overwhelmed. She was never satisfied, always complaining, always emotional." Rowan raised one brow. "That's not justification. That's blame." End quote. Snow continued falling, cold and quiet, as two different men stood in two very different versions of themselves. Inside, Harper paced slowly, trying to soothe Liam, but the baby clung to her collar, his breath shaky. She kissed his forehead, heart aching from seeing her son in fear. Then, suddenly, Liam lifted his head, eyes still wet but wide. He looked toward the door, toward the voices, toward the tension he didn't understand, but deeply felt. And then, for the first time ever, he formed a tiny, trembling word. "Duh. Duh." Harper froze. Rowan froze. Cole, who heard the muffled sound from outside, stared at the door in stunned disbelief. "Duh. Duh," Liam said again, reaching not toward the door, not toward the voice screaming in anger outside, but toward the warm, steady presence behind Harper. Toward Rowan. Harper turned slowly. Rowan stood in the doorway, breath caught in his chest, eyes softening with something almost pained. Cole's face twisted. "That's my son," he barked, voice cracking. "He said it because of me." But Harper shook her head, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "No, Cole. Babies say dada to the person who makes them feel safe." Rowan looked stunned, humbled, overwhelmed. Cole looked shattered. He stepped back, as if the moment had physically struck him. This is manipulation," he stammered. "You're poisoning him against me." Harper held Liam closer, her voice steady. "You did that yourself." The wind howled softly across the porch, swallowing Cole's silence. Liam rested his head on Harper's shoulder, murmuring one last soft "duh" before falling asleep from exhaustion. And in that fragile, unplanned moment, the man who once believed he controlled everything finally realized he controlled nothing at all. Cole Wynn stood speechless on the snowy porch, his breath puffing out in ragged clouds. The single word from Liam, "duh," still echoed in his skull like a blow he hadn't seen coming. Harper held the sleeping toddler against her shoulder, gently rocking him, while Rowan stood a step behind her, calm but ready if Cole tried anything reckless. For a moment, no one moved. Then Cole's face tightened into something bitter, wounded, and ugly. "You've turned my own son against me," he said, voice cracking. Harper didn't raise her voice. "Cole, Liam is a baby. He's reacting to what he feels, and what he feels from you right now is fear." "Fear?" Cole scoffed, stepping forward until Rowan blocked him. "I'm his father." "You're the man who yelled at a door," Rowan replied softly. You're the man who terrified the person he depends on most. Cole's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. Instead, he looked toward Harper, almost pleading. Can we just talk? Alone, please? Harper, I'm begging you. For years, Harper would have given in. She would have folded herself into small shapes, softened her voice, swallowed her pain, and told herself he didn't mean it. But tonight, she couldn't afford softness. She shifted Liam in her arms and met Cole's eyes evenly. I'm willing to talk. But only if you understand one thing. We're not discussing reconciliation. We're discussing boundaries. Boundaries? He repeated, as if the word was foreign. Yes, she said quietly. Because I'm not stepping back into the life where I disappear so you can feel bigger. The words were simple, but they stunned him. She stepped outside, careful not to wake Liam, and closed the door behind her. Rowan remained near the porch railing, far enough to give space, but close enough to intervene. Cole shoved his hands deep into his coat pockets, the cold reddening his cheeks. You think I'm the villain here, he muttered. Harper's breath left her in a soft fog. Cole, I think you're a man who refuses to see the damage he's caused. I made mistakes, he argued, but running away? Taking my son? Do you have any idea how crazy that makes you look? There it was again, the gaslighting he wielded like a blade. Harper didn't flinch. I didn't leave to hurt you. I left because staying with you was hurting me. He opened his mouth, then stopped. Something in her expression, steady, unshakable, made him hesitate. You're not the same, he said slowly, almost accusingly. I'm finally the version of myself I was never allowed to be with you. He swallowed hard, snowflakes settling in his hair. What do you want from me, Harper? She considered this question carefully. I want peace, I want stability for Liam, I want respect, but I'm not asking those things from you anymore. I'm giving them to myself. It was the first time she'd said it aloud. And the truth tasted like freedom. Cole looked devastated, as if hearing those words forced him to face a version of reality he'd spent years avoiding. You're really done, he whispered. Harper nodded softly. Yes, I'm done breaking for you. Behind her, Rowan's presence remained steady, a quiet reminder she wasn't alone. And for the first time, Cole realized Harper wasn't coming back. Not now. Not ever. The next morning, pale winter sunlight filtered through the frosted cabin windows. Harper Wynne barely slept after the confrontation, but her exhaustion carried a different texture, now not despair, but determination. Liam played quietly on the rug while she reread the email Rowan had sent at dawn. Attached. Temporary custody resources, emergency financial steps, and a family law referral. For the first time in months, Harper felt the ground beneath her solidify. She packed a small bag, bundled Liam into his coat, and stepped outside just as Rowan's SUV pulled into the snowy driveway. He got out, instantly reaching for Liam's diaper bag. You ready? He asked gently. Harper inhaled slowly. Yes, it's time. The drive to the county courthouse was quiet, except for Liam's occasional babbling. Rowan didn't push conversation. He simply drove with calm focus, the hum of the heater filling the silence. His presence felt like armor. When they arrived, Harper's hands trembled slightly, but Rowan walked at her side, steady and grounded. Whatever happens today, he murmured, you're doing the right thing. Inside, the courthouse smelled faintly of paper, old wood, and winter coats drying. Harper spoke with the clerk, filed an emergency petition, and handed over the packet of evidence she had assembled: screenshots, financial statements, messages, photos Cole thought she'd never find. The clerk skimmed the documents, eyebrows tightening. You did the right thing coming in. The judge will review this immediately. Harper felt something loosen in her shoulders, relief mixing with grief. Afterward, Rowan led her to a nearby bench. You breathing okay? He asked. She nodded. Yeah, actually, yes. Before she could say more, her phone vibrated violently. Cole. Again. But this time, she didn't ignore it. She stepped outside, thumb hovering before she finally answered. Cole's voice erupted through the phone. Harper, what the hell did you do? HR suspended me. Now I'm getting calls from the county court? Are you trying to ruin my life? Her breath fogged in the icy air. I filed for temporary custody. You're insane, he barked. You took Liam, you blindsided me. Now you're dragging lawyers into this? You want to destroy me? She closed her eyes. No, Cole. I want to protect myself and our son. You're overreacting. You always... No. Her voice was steady, unshakable. I'm responding. There was a heavy pause. Then Cole asked, almost quietly, so that's it? You're choosing him, that therapist Rowan, over your own husband? Harper opened her eyes, watching snow drift across the courthouse steps. I'm choosing the person who treats me with respect. And right now, that person isn't you. Cole's tone snapped back into anger. You'll regret this. She didn't even tremble. Maybe, but I'll never regret protecting Liam. End quote. She ended the call before he could respond. When she re-entered the courthouse, Rowan stood waiting, Liam in his arms. The toddler reached for her with a soft, trusting smile. At that moment, the judge stepped into the hallway. Mrs. Wynne? Yes. I reviewed your petition. Given the evidence, I'm granting temporary full custody until further notice. Harper's breath caught. Her knees nearly gave out. Rowan steadied her with one hand. Thank you, she whispered to the judge, voice breaking. For the first time since she left Brooklyn, Harper felt something powerful bloom inside her chest. The certainty that she was no longer surviving. She was winning. 2 weeks later, the snow began to melt in thin, glistening sheets across the Hudson Valley. Harper Wynne packed the last of her belongings into Rowan's SUV, feeling lighter than she had in years. The temporary custody order had changed everything. Her breathing, her posture, her sense of safety. She no longer woke with dread. She no longer jumped at every notification on her phone. The silence inside her was no longer fear. It was space. Space to rebuild. Ready? Rowan asked softly, securing Liam into his car seat. Harper glanced at the cabin, its wooden frame, the chimney, the porch where she'd cried, healed, confronted, and transformed. Yeah, she whispered. It was what I needed, but I'm ready to go home. Home didn't mean Cole anymore. Home meant something she would define herself. The drive back to Brooklyn was different from the night she fled. She wasn't running now. She was returning with boundaries, legal protection, and a spine she finally recognized as her own. When they reached the city, Harper felt an odd surge of confidence. The skyline didn't intimidate her. The crowded streets didn't mirror her inner chaos. Instead, she felt anchored. Liam, babbling happily in the back seat, Rowan steady beside her. They pulled up to a modest, sunlit apartment Rowan had helped her find. It wasn't luxurious, but it was perfect. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, a view of a small park. A place where Liam could grow without absorbing his father's anger. A place where Harper could breathe without shrinking. Rowan carried the heaviest boxes, insisting without a hint of arrogance. Let me help, he said each time she tried to lift something herself. You've carried enough. Harper didn't argue. By late afternoon, the apartment began to look alive. Liam's toys scattered across the rug, Harper's books filling a shelf, sunlight pooling on the kitchen counter where she set her laptop. A new beginning in every corner. When Liam napped, Harper stepped onto the small balcony overlooking the park. Children played below. People walked their dogs. Life moved gently, steadily. Rowan joined her quietly. How does it feel? She exhaled. The breeze lifted strands of her hair. It feels like I'm finally choosing myself. He nodded, hands tucked into his coat pockets. You deserve that, Harper. She turned to him, really looking at the kindness in his eyes, the steadiness in his presence, the patience in his posture. A softness stirred in her chest, unfamiliar but warm. Thank you, she said, for everything, for showing up, for not asking for anything in return. If you want it. Rowan smiled a small private smile. I wasn't helping for a reward. I was helping because I care. Her breath caught not out of fear, but because the words didn't threaten her. They soothed. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the railing. A single message from Cole. I want a meeting. You owe me that. Harper didn't flinch this time. She looked at Rowan, then at her new home, then at her sleeping son inside. No, she whispered. She didn't owe Cole anything. And for the first time, she believed it. Spring came early that year. The park beneath Harper Wynne's new apartment filled with budding trees, dogs chasing tennis balls, and joggers shaking off winter. Inside, sunlight streamed through her windows, warming the wooden floors and the corners of a life she was finally rebuilding on her own terms. It had been a month since she left the cabin. A month of healing, of forming routines with Liam, of letting peace settle into the spaces where fear used to live. And after ignoring Cole's attempts to provoke her texts, voicemails, even letters, she finally agreed to one meeting. Not for him. For closure. They met in a neutral space, a quiet conference room at her attorney's office, where everything smelled faintly of ink and old books. Harper walked in with her head high, Liam at home with a trusted babysitter, Rowan waiting in the building lobby if she needed him afterward. Cole stood when she entered. He looked thinner, hollowed out by consequences he had never expected to face. Suspended from work, gossip swirling through his office, Blair gone. His reputation, carefully crafted arrogance, fractured. "Harper," he began, voice soft. "You look different." "I feel different," she replied, sitting across from him. He swallowed hard. "I want to fix this. I want my family back." Harper didn't hesitate. "There is no back to return to." His brows knit. "You can't be serious. After everything?" "After everything," she said firmly. "I finally learned what love should not feel like." He blinked, stunned. She continued, her tone steady. "You blamed me for your unhappiness. You lied. You cheated. You made me question my sanity so you wouldn't have to face your own behavior. And when I finally left, you threatened me with court instead of asking if I was safe." Cole exhaled shakily. "I didn't mean." "You did," she said. "And that's why I'm done." Silence stretched between them. Then she slid a document across the table, the finalized separation terms she and her attorney had prepared. "Sign this, and we can both move on. You'll have supervised visitation, stability for Liam, and a chance to rebuild your life without destroying mine." He stared at the papers. His voice cracked. "So that's it? You're choosing him? Rowan?" Harper smiled softly. "I'm choosing myself. Rowan just happens to respect that." Cole's shoulders slumped as realization washed over him. For once, he didn't argue, didn't manipulate, didn't fight. He simply signed. Harper walked out lighter than air, the hallway filled with the soft hum of freedom. Rowan was waiting by the elevator, hands tucked into his coat pockets, a question in his eyes. "How did it go?" "It's done," she said, breathless with relief. Rowan nodded once, gently. "Good." Outside, the world felt brighter. She and Rowan walked toward the park, where Liam waited with the sitter. Rowan brushed a stray curl from her cheek, slow, careful, as though asking permission without words. Harper didn't step away. In the weeks that followed, their companionship grew into something tender, rooted in respect and steadiness, nothing like the brittle love she once begged for. One warm afternoon in Central Park, under blooming cherry trees, Rowan knelt with a simple ring in hand, Liam clapping beside him. "Harper," he said softly, "let's build a life with peace at its center." Tears filled her eyes, but not from pain. From finally being seen. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Cole watched from a distance, months later, alone, remorseful, and living the consequences of the life he built. But Harper finally lived the life she deserved. So that's the end of the story. And if you're still here with us right now, my friend, it means something in Harper's journey touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Maybe it reminded you of a moment when you had to stand up for yourself. Maybe it reminded you of a time you finally chose peace over chaos. And I want us to take a breath together and look at this ending from another angle. One of my favorite Stoic lines from Marcus Aurelius says, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." Harper's strength didn't come from fighting harder. It came from choosing thoughts that protected her peace, even when fear tried to pull her backward. That's something all of us can apply. We don't control what others do, but we do control how we rise afterward. And here's the gentle truth this story leaves behind. Leaving what hurts you isn't failure, it's clarity. It's courage. It's the beginning of a life built on self-respect rather than survival. If this story spoke to you in any way, stay with us, like, share, and subscribe so we can keep walking through these emotional journeys together. You're not alone here.